In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a clickable segment of the donut ring and then show the percentage value. As you can see here, the data itself is number 18, but this percentage is 26. And then you can see here, if we keep on clicking on it, we are getting every percentage in the matching color of that. And if you refresh here, you can see by default, it will not show until we have it clicked. So let's start to explore how to show the label text in the center of the donut chart with the Onclick in Chartjs. To do this, what we need to have first is of course our default code. So make sure you go to chartjs3.com, getting started, scroll down here and just grab this entire chunk of code here. Copy this, and if you want to understand what this code does, please watch this video here that explains it all. So I'm going to paste that in here, and once I did that, I will cut out that and then just paste that in there, save, refresh. Alright, so now we have our basic bar chart. Let's convert this into a donut chart. Because it's a donut chart, I want to make sure that the width is 400, so it will be because it will be a square shape. And next I'm going to say here, donut, and then make sure you have a small d, save that, refresh. Alright, so now we have this, but I want to remove these x's here, and let's make this donut ring a bit more narrow. So we're going to say here, we're going to just remove this and make sure we remove the other option as well. Alright, comma here, and then we say cut out, which will make the donut ring more narrow, and then we say 90%. So if I save this now, then you will see the x-axis or the lines are gone, and our donut ring is now nice and narrow. So what I want to do now is basically, I need to figure out that when we click on it, that we know on which segment we have clicked. And this is a very tricky one, but luckily there's a way around this. So first of all, what we're going to do here is to create two global variables. And these variables are, let's give it a let, and then we say selected data set index, which I will put in here as undefined. So this would mean that in the very beginning, when it loads, we have not selected anything, which is correct. So they are undefined. And then next I want to copy this again, and we just put in here. Then here this will be the selected, I guess, the data index or the selected index. So what this really means is that when we click on something, eventually we want to know the data set, but also the data set index and the data index. Meaning, if this is data set 1, this is index, this is data set 0. So that's 0.0 because this is the first one in first element, which is index 0. So this here would be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you would have another donut ring, it would be specified. It would be specified as well individually. Anyway, for us, having one donut ring makes probably most sense in this kind of setup. Anyway, let's start and continue on. So how are we going to do this? In Chartjs, they have a built-in function. It's called the Onclick, and this is very useful for us because basically when we click on it, at that very moment I want to grab a certain value. So I'm going to say here Onclick, and this is a built-in object in Chartjs. And this built-in object is also a callback function. So it's a built-in, helps us to quickly figure out on click what are we clicking on. So what we're going to do here is the following. We say here Onclick, and then we're going to get here the parameters. And these parameters are, we can even do it like this, sorry, because it's like a function. So we say click, element, and chart. Once we do this, what we can do here is the following. Let's do here a console.log, and all I want to do right now is just to check if we get something. If I save this and refresh, open up our developer tab with the console log here, or the console, click on that, and then you can see here what is happening. It understands what we click on, and you can see here a lot of information. It finds here all the information, and if I click on the information here, or let's click on this here, you will see here a lot of extras what we need. And if I click here, let's see, still basically it just shows this, but alright. So this is first one. What is really important for us is not really the click, but basically the element for the elements. I guess we could say elements. Why? Because we have multiple elements. So if you click on one, it will eventually show one element. So it doesn't matter. You can just give your own names for that. It doesn't matter. So if I click now on this, you can see here what is happening. We are now able to get a lot of information. One of them is, first of all, it understands it's length 1. Why? It understands that we are only selecting one specific segment, or segment of a donut ring. And then what we can find here is the following. You see all the element information. Well, this is all interesting, but not necessary for us. But what is interesting is basically the index and the data set index. Because if I click on this, we should get here now index number 1. And to be more specific, we can just copy this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it here because remember, it will always sees it as an array. Because if I click here, there's none. This array is blank. While here, if I click on this one, the array has a, this one here, the array has a length of 1, meaning that it recognizes one single item. So I'm going to say here this, and then we're going to grab here the index. So if I save that, refresh, click index 0, 1, and then, oh, what happened here? Did I click it correctly? Yes, or maybe here. So the reason why we get this error here is simply this. We want to do a console log, but remember, when we click on the white space, there is no element. And basically that would mean that their index would be then blank. Or basically this is not non-existing. If you do like this, of course you will see why. So if I click on this, that's why we have here none. Here, that's why. So it gives an error because it says, sorry, I can't find anything here. While here, it doesn't show an error because it shows correctly. Alright, so what we need to do here is basically make sure that it recognizes if we have an element. And maybe an element is even better named than elements, I guess. We can just call it the element. And then here, index. So we have this one, but let me just show you the other one is the other one. If I click on this, then we're going to get here the data set index. And let's go back here up. Remember these two here, where we had the selected data set index and here the selected index. So now we can start to assign them, because if this would be the data set index, save that, refresh, click, it will be always 0 as long as we click on the segment here. Alright, so enough about this. So that will mean that now we already figure out where or how we can get the selected segment. So what I'm going to do now is basically this. I'm going to say here a if statement. And this if statement will be very straightforward, and we'll just say the following. I'm going to say this. If the element has an index of 1 or has an index, in that case, I want to do the following. I want to say here, or rename this, because this is a global variable. And what we're going to do now is also use hoisting. And hoisting, let me just spell that so you know. Hoisting, so not hosting. It's not hosting, by the way. So hoisting is basically getting a variable and then pull it up to the top. So if you wonder what does hoisting mean, hoisting means, imagine like a flag, you want to put it on the flagpole and then you pull the wire and the flag gradually goes up. That is what we call hoisting a flag. So basically what we're doing is here, we create a value here, which is down, and this variable will eventually be hoisted at the very top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'll just say here, this equals that. And then here, all I'm going to say here, the element equals the data set index. And then we have another one here, which is for the selected index that we will hoist as well. And that will be element. And this element will be dot index. So once we have this, we should have now everything. And then what we want to do eventually is a command to draw. So what we want to do now is just say into the chart to draw based on whatever we have clicked on. So we're going to create a new drawing. And what are we going to draw here? So we're going to say chart.draw, which is a built-in function in Chartjs to draw something. But basically what we're going to do here now is we're not going to draw this. This is being drawn and it will not do anything at all. But what we will do, if I click on this, later on, well, you don't see anything yet. And we still have this error here. So let's see here if element is that. What is it showing? On 89. That will be this one here. So console log. Of course, the console log is an issue. If I save this now, we should have no more errors. There we are. Alright, so we have this now, but what I want to do now is to draw, but now we need to create a plugin. So this plugin will help us to draw the value. So in the options, I put comma, I'm going to say plugins, and I'm going to create here now what we call our click label. So basically, we're going to draw once we click on a specific segment. And this is our plugin. So this is a variable as well. So we're going to say here this plugin block that we're going to create, and this will be constant. And then there will be the name of click label equal, and then here ID click label. So I'm using these all consistent, and the reason I'm doing that is just to make sure it is easy, but basically this doesn't matter so much because we will not use anything in the options for this. But if you would have something in the options, then this would be one of the items that you need. But anyway, I will not use that, so I will not go deep in this for now. Next, then we're going to ask ourselves, when are we going to draw it? I will call it the after draw, which is called a timing. So we're going to draw it, but after draw. And basically, this is what we call a timing. Timing refers to when are we going to draw it regarding to the chart. Are we going to draw the chart first and then the text labels? Or are we going to draw the text labels first and then the chart? Because of after draw, we're going to draw first the entire chart, and afterwards, then we're going to draw it in, and afterwards we're going to draw the text label in here. So in here we have the following arguments. Make sure you have this colon here, by the way, because this is a callback functionality. So I say here chart, arguments, and options. Options again is related to this. Doesn't matter for us now, we don't need this. But basically this is the one, or this is the chart object that we need. This is very important. So what I'm going to do in here is the following. I'm going to put here the function or arrow function expression. This is related because it's a function and it's a callback function, so that's why we have this here. So then what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to say a constant. And this constant will be object destructuring. So this object destructure, we're going to put in this equals chart. Remember, when I talk about object destructure, it means that we're going to take one object and we split it out. We split them out because they contain multiple objects, but we want to use shorthands. And a shorthand is like a shortcut. So basically this here chart has a huge amount of arrays. And we could, sorry, not arrays, has a huge amount of object values that we want to use. So what I want to do here, just for it, just show you the chart. Refresh, you can see here now, for example, this. And then what I want, for example, in our case, we need the CTX, which is this one, and then we also need the chart area. Let's see, that's this one here. It's all this information. However, I don't want to use, because normally without object destruction we need to use this chart.chart area, and then for example I want to pinpoint the let's see here, where's the chart area, letter C, in our case we need the width. So, and I'm going to explain later on why. So that will be like this. But this is quite long. And you imagine if you have width, height, top, and bottom, we don't want this. So instead of doing this, we do a object destructuring, which will say, I want to go into, first of all, CTX, but also I want to go into the chart area. And then in the chart area, I want to go into, let's say here, we need the width, we need the height, and we need the top, and I'm going to explain later on why. And basically here, now, instead of using this, which equals the width of 400 pixels, now I can just say I want this width here. So I say width, and then here, that will be 400. That will be the variable 400. Meaning, it saves us a lot of time, because you can see here, the shorthand just reduces all of this redundancy here if we need to use multiple variables. So that's more dry coding, basically. Dry coding means don't repeat yourself too many times, or don't repeat yourself. Keep it as concise as possible. Alright, so now we have this. So we can now continue on, and what we want to do here is basically the following. I need to now start to draw something here, and how we can do this is the following. Well, let's start with the very basics. Let's control here, we say ctx.save to save all the variables here above, and then here now we can continue on and just draw a basic font. or at least some basic text. So let's start to do something. So I'm going to say a font, and this font here equals, well, we can just make it very simple. I will say a bolder to make it nice bold. Next, I want to say 60 pixels, and then we get a font family of Arial. So next, what I want to do here is, of course, get the color. The color in Canvas, and this is basically all Canvas, and I'm using CTX. Maybe you might wonder, why am I using CTX? CTX refers to drawing in the canvas itself. So that will mean here, start to draw in which canvas? This canvas here, with the ID of my chart. So then I'm going to say here, so we have this font, we have specified the font and the font size, but we haven't specified the color. So we're going to say here, for the font color, we're going to say fill style. And fill style indicates here the color. Basically what it really does is it will fill up a shape, but that fill up shape will be the text. So this is very important, and later on I'm going to show you what I mean with that. So we have blue, let's make this blue, and then finally what we can do here is ctx.fill text, and the fill text here would be the text we want to show. Eventually I want to show here like percentage. Let's say 25%, that should be it. And then of course here would be the position. And when I talk about position, this would be the X position, and we have the Y position. And this is very important because this tool here, the X position, would mean based on the left coordinates, because it's X and Y coordinates. So the X coordinates will be for the left, which means basically calculate the horizontal structure. And what it means is this. We are here, for example, at the left, but this will be 0.0. So the X coordinate is 0 and the Y coordinate is 0. And how can we figure that out? If we click here with our inspector element, you see 400 by 400. This indicates that the width is 400 and the height is 400. And if you want to start somewhere here in the center, you might say, well, that's just 200 by 200. Well, not exactly, because we have some space here. And this is the reason why we're going to use the chart area. And the chart area indicates the width of the drawing area of the chart, not the canvas, because the canvas has like this part here. So what I really want to do here is I want to get, first of all, the width. The width is 400 because the chart area right now is acceptable 400. Because if you would see, the chart area is starting from, this is the top, and then we have here left and right and bottom. So the width will be this, but the top or the width or the height starts here up to there. I'm going to show you later on as well. So what I'm going to do here, just first of all for the width, which you can see here, that's why the width is 400. While the top here indicates already 54 pixels. So that will mean that this here is 54 pixels. And then the height is 346. So what I'm going to do here with the width, I'll just say width divide by 2. That's our X position here. Width divide by 2. So the height, just for the sake of it, I'm going to divide it by 2, but we know it's incorrect. But at least if you have a visual, it becomes easier. So you can see here, there's two things happening here. First of all, you might say it's not 100% in the center. The issue is it is in the center, but we didn't put the text alignment center. Right now the text alignment is by default set on left. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, ctx.text align. Just think about it like CSS. We have center, left and right. And here what I want to do now is text alignment will be center. If I refresh this, and alright, so that didn't work because I didn't spell that correctly. Text align, there we are. So now we are nicely in the center, but we are not really in the center because it should be here. And remember what I said with the height and the, basically here with the height. What we need to do here is we have the top as well. So we need to put in the top. If I add this up, you can see here now, it starts to come very nicely in the center. But if we're not yet sure, we can still position it nicely. How can we check it easily? Well, I'm going to show you 25. At least I'm going to convert this. Why I'm doing that, so we 25, 25, 25, that means 25% each. Alright, so now we are probably in the center, or maybe a little bit not. So how do we do this really correct? Well, just the final item here is what we call the baseline. This is also a CSS command, but in JavaScript they also have it for the canvas. So we say ctx.text baseline, and then I'm going to say here, this will be in the middle. Think about it like in a table. We have a table cell, and every table cell you can put in the middle, you can put in top or bottom. So I do this, then now it should be slightly in the center. Although I'm not 100% certain, but I will say here it didn't feel like it really changed, but I guess this is quite acceptable. I think it's just exactly, but maybe 1-2 pixels off, but that's acceptable. Alright, so now we have this. But this here is currently still a solid text. So we need to convert this. So what I want to do now is start converting that into a dynamic text. So how do we do this? Well, let's start with it. So the first thing what I want to do here is we need to use the hoisting value here. Remember this. This is the hoisted value. That we will extract them once we click on it. So basically it will load this, but it will click and you get these values, and then those values will be recognized, even though this here says undefined, and the code here below comes afterwards this. Normally this is not possible, but because of the hoisting, it allows us to do this. So this is quite powerful tool to use. So now what I want to do here is the following. I want to just say if, and this if statement is very straightforward, if the selected value is something. So what we can do here, maybe just do a console log and just see, are we getting the selected value, and are we getting the selected index and selected data set. So we should see this here, and if I save this now and refresh, alright, so right now it's undefined, and that is fair because it loads an undefined. But if I click on this, we get now a new value. There you are. Let me just refresh this. You can see here, if I click on this, now it starts to recognize. And it starts first with 0 because it's index 0, or the data set is index 0, and afterwards it has 0 and then, or any number, like green here, 0, 3, indicating the data index is 3 and the data set is 0. So this information is very important. So what I want to do now here is to make sure that this doesn't draw until we have clicked on a value, because that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here is an if statement, and this if statement will be very simple. Now I'll just say here, for example, this if the selected data set would be bigger or equal to a value. That's it. And if that is the case, we want to draw something. So I'm going to put in here enter, make this if statement here. I'm going to move this up, enter here, and then I just semicolon here and just give it an indentation so it looks a bit more clean and tidy. Save this, refresh. Alright, so now it doesn't draw anything, but if I click on it, there we are. So now it responds. So now what we can do is start to work on the number here. So what we're going to do here is the following. So let's see, what are we going to do here now is basically extracting the value here. For this, we are going to use something very nice. So I'm going to show you here a console log. And let's remove these console logs here. And let's put in the following. So you're going to grab here the chart. Put that in there. Save that. Refresh. Alright, so you can see here, I see there's a lot of stuff here. Can we maybe make this slightly more bigger? No, I want to go to the console log. That's it. Alright, so if I refresh here, we get a lot of information, and this is all of line number 89, which is this number with that reset, basically the console chart. Here, what I need to do is two things. First of all, I need to get the value of this, and what I mean by the value, because if I hover over it here, you can see we have these values, and that's alright, but I want to eventually convert this back to the original state, and let's go get the original value in here. So if I just scroll down here and just get the specific numbers here, the data numbers. Let's grab this, put it back into original state. Save that. Here we are. So now we get all of this, but what I want to do is this. So you can see here, this is number 18, but I want to have a percentage here, and percentage is not 18, because this here is 100% altogether, but the total sum of this is not 100, as you can see here. This is a different value. So what I need is first to figure out how do we calculate the total sum, then convert whatever is in here, the value, into a percentage representative, or a representation of the percentage value of this. So what we need to do here is to go in the chart, and then in the chart I'm going to scroll down here, and you will find eventually here It's called the meta sets. And this is very beautiful because in here, in the meta sets, you can find a lot of information. And what we really want to do here is to get the, well, we can get the parse value, or we can get here in the meta sets, can we get the data set as well, or the total? Let's see, I know there's, there we are. That's the one. I need a total value because if we would do this, we have to sum them all, but that's not necessary because there's a total value in here, which means that it is 69 in total value. So how do we get here from total? Well, if I hover over this, I should be able to see it. Does it work? No, it doesn't work. So I'm going to click on it and then hover. Alright, so for some reason the tooltip is not working. Alright, so that's, oh, there we are. So it's underscore meta sets index 0 because we have index 0, but we have the dynamic index, and then dot total. So that's what we're going to do here. Scroll down here, this, and then here, meta sets. Let's see if it's meta set or meta sets. You can see meta set is an S. Index, and then the index here will be based on the selected index that we have here. So this eventually needs to be down here, or else it will not show, and then we say yeah, dot total. Save that. Alright, refresh. So now I click on it, and there we are. So it shows us here 96. So what we can do now is figuring out how do we get then the percentage value here. So we have now the sum. So here, constant sum equals that. So which is the total sum. So now what I want to do is to get the data point value. So how do we do that? Well, let's do again another console log. Console log. And we have here the meta set. Save that, refresh. Click on that. And then here, next is eventually getting the value of that. So to get the value or the data point here, you can see here if I click on this, do we get here? Do we get anything? Obvious value here? No. We have to go down here, total, and then most likely here we have the parse value. And do we have another option here? Maybe even easier one. Well, not really, but it doesn't matter. We can get this one here. So you can see here we have the parse value, which is very similar to what we had with the other item. So what we have to do is here, index 0, and then here dot parse. So this was in there. So we have to say index 0 and then dot parse. If I'm not mistaken, it was underscore. So let's move that in here on click. If I click that, alright, so we get all of these values here. So what I want now, of course, is not parse of the value here, but I want to get the official value, which is our selected index. So we have this, and then here, this one was the meta set. Remember, here we need to select it, data set index. Alright, so now we have this here, and we should get now the exact value here. So 18, which is correct, this should be 12, and this is 6. Alright, we have now everything, so now it's time to start calculating this. So we can say a constant, we can say here the data, or index data, or value, I guess, or index value, doesn't matter, let's say value here. And then the value will be this. So how are we going to calculate this? Well, then we can say here constant. Well, let's move it up here. Constant percentage. We want the percentage representation of this value, which will be value divided by sum. If we do this, we can do a console log here. Let's see, we will probably get an item and we need to multiply it probably by 100 as well. So if I save this, refresh, click on this. Alright, so we get now about 26%. So we need to multiply this by 100. So multiply by 100. Save this, refresh, click. There we are. Alright, so now we get this, but what I want to do here is I want to clean that up here. Well, maybe we should do a, well, in this case, I'll just make it very simple. I'll just do a simple value just to get only the comma or the decimals. So what I'm going to say here, and later on probably we can use maybe a floor value, or math floor, I guess, would be also fine. It's even probably better. Alright, so we don't have to, I realized we should have one decimal here, and then I was talking about math floor, but I guess what is probably more appropriate, it would be here just to fix, which would be basically far more logical. If you do this, we should get, oh, sorry, we should get that. Let's put it back. We should have here the proper decimal here. All right, so we get this here now. So now this here should be the text in here. So what I'm going to do here is say this. There's a plus concatenate percentage. Save that. Refresh. Click, 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 click. All right, so this works. Almost done here. What I want to do, of course, I want to grab the color as well. The color representation is an important part of this. So then what I'm going to do here is just one thing. First of all, here I want to do here ctx.restore. This would mean that we want to remove all the items we saved right now. All these variables has been saved and stored, or yeah, stored in the memory basically. But I want to restore, meaning that it will delete everything and go back to original state. Why? If you have, for example, like this color of blue, sometimes, and if you will be drawing something else as well, that color will be bleeding over to other elements of yours. So you want to avoid that. So that's why you have the restore. But next, what I want to do here, this hard-coded blue color needs to be converted. So what we're going to do now is just figuring out how can we change the color. So what I'm going to do here for the color, well, that one is straightforward, because basically what we need to do here is in the data, getting the color. So I can just do here constant and then say color, and this color, we will get it from where exactly? Well, we're going to get it from the chart, well, of course. And then in the chart, we're just going to go here. So let me show you where I'm going. In the chart, we're just going in here into the data itself. And maybe we can even give a console log for that. Let's see how we can get there, so you have understanding of it visually. Let's save this. And then I'm going to remove this console log here. Refresh. And if I click on that, alright, you get a lot of items, and then you can see a chart. And then let's see, is there maybe a shortcut to get there, maybe in underscore meta? Let me double check if we can find it in here. And data sets, well, you can see here, this is basically the very complicated way, but we could do it as well in the data itself. Basically in here, and then in the data sets, we can just go in there. And then from the data sets, because we have the data sets here, and then we can find here the border color. That's the one we need. So that would mean the following. We're going to grab the, let's see here, how do we get there? We get there from chart.data sets, and this data set will be, of course, again with the index of the selected data set. Then we say here dot, we are in the data sets, and then we say here dot background color, or sorry, border color. I don't want the background color, I want the border color, because the border color is solid, while the background color is transparent. Border color, and then border color, we will get the index, and the index will be the selected index here. So if I get this, save that, refresh, click, you can see here now, we're just grabbing and extracting the original color. That looks beautiful. So now what I want to do here, I want to copy this, and then I'll say a color equals that. Console log can be removed, and let's push that in there, and then here this blue will be now a color. Save that, refresh, click, 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 oh, there you are, click, and click, and click, and click. And there we are. So now we have basically a clickable effect here, showing besides the tooltip with the value, also the percentage value in there. Beautiful. So this is basically how you can do this, and this is how you can convert that. So if you enjoyed this video, and maybe you want to do, for example, a hover effect where you hover and then show, for example, the data information here in there. So in that case, I have another video that shows how to show the text in the center on hover in a Doughnut chart in Chart.js.